Hi everyone, so Diablo 4 has been out for a while now, around 1.5 months, and I've been blasting it almost non-stop since then, and Season 1 is just around the corner. I want to talk about my experience playing the game, in particular with the Rogue class. I've leveled 4 Rogues, 2 of them to 100, 2 of them almost to 100, and most of that was in fact done before they did these massive Nightmare Dungeon experience buffs. So I have quite a lot of experience on the class, and also previously I've been, theory crafting the class. I've been trying to figure out Rogue as best as possible going into launch, because that was my favorite. And, well, I'm also doing those Rogue guys on max or all these kind of things. So I wanted to make sure I know my stuff. I gotta say, it's actually really cool how versatile Rogue is. So in general, the class has a lot of good builds. In fact, only good builds, really. So if you look at our endgame tier list, for example, that we made here in our meetings on max roll, and you can see for regular endgame, so this includes like leveling, just general gameplay, we consider Rogue actually one of the best classes now. They have massively nerfed a lot of barb stuff, some druid stuff, there's probably more stuff like that coming in the patch notes. And this leaves Rogue in generally a really good spot, as you can see. You have Death Trap here with 2 different variations that I've actually used for the World First race on launch. That was a really nice build. Then we have the pure Twisting Blades build, kind of similar to that one, but with different synergies. Then we have Barrage Rogue, is really powerful. That might actually go to S tier, like we were kind of debating a bit. And we have the Flurry Rogue, or the Flurry Rapid Fire that I've played. That was also really fun. And at the very least for leveling, I think this is like one of the best builds in the game. It is really fast. And potentially what I will be starting in Season 1 as well, actually. And there's Pen Shot. We moved it down one lately because we figured it's just not really as fast as the other builds, at least when it comes to leveling. And there's also the Rapid Fire, which right now is grayed out here, but the guide is actually written, so it's gonna go live very, very soon. And Rogue has turned out to be just like an overall really solid class that I have a lot of fun in playing, and I also hear the same from other things. So going into Season 1, I actually don't really expect there's gonna be like many adjustments to Rogues. I think that they are pretty much exactly where all classes should be. They are very balanced, like among the class, like all the builds just feel like they are mostly options, and there's not like anything crazy going on with one being like massively more powerful than any other or so. And it seems like all of the different playstyles also have their own uses. Of course, if you want to do some of those high-end challenges like a tier 100 push, then you do have some special requirements for your build, and certain builds shine more than others. For example, I would probably not try to do a tier 100 with Flurry build, for example, because you're just lacking single target damage. But, something like Rapid Fire definitely works, Death Trap works, Twisting Blades works, Pen Shot probably as well. So in the end, yeah, you can still play pretty much anything anyway, as long as you do it like slowly and methodically. And for anything else, basically everything is just fine. And one major reason, I believe, why Rogue is actually so balanced and just overall good is because, well, it doesn't really have any crazy shenanigans like other classes do. We have stuff like Grizzly Rage, for example, on a Druid. And if you rely on that, then, well, you have these like roller coaster, like ups and downs of your damage output. And Rogue doesn't have that. Or, stuff like crazy synergies with, for example, Devouring Blaze passive and Aspect of Control on the Sorcerer. Rogue also doesn't have that. So in general, just whatever you do, it just kind of like works by default, and then you have a bunch of choices with, adding in extra utility skills and in extra mobility, and you just choose whatever playstyle you like, depending on the core skill. In some cases, even a combination of core skills, like the Flurry RF or the Pen Shot RF combos you can do. So there's a lot of stuff that you can just combine on a Rogue. I think Rogue is really like the shining example of balance in Diablo 4 right now, and I would really like to see other classes also going towards a similar direction. But again, this is a bit more difficult because of those special class mechanics that, yeah, other classes do have that the Rogue doesn't have. So there is just more work to be done on balancing. If you have seen one of my other videos lately, I actually tried this Poison Trap build here. This was just like a proof of concept kind of run where I tried to do like a full dot poison build and try to make my way through some high tier dungeons, but this strategy didn't really work out, so that was kind of expected. I don't really have high hopes for like a non-crit build to exist on a Rogue class right now, with like how powerful crit chance and crit damage multipliers are in Diablo 4. But maybe we're gonna get some help for these kind of playstyles and maybe some nerfs to crit or something. and it will even out those builds a little bit more. I'm not sure how it is on other classes. For example, on the Sorc, I know there are some kind of viable firewall builds, for example, that rely on burn damage and not crits. But I think in the late game, you generally have the same problem, that crits just kind of like outshine dot damage. And since dots don't scale to crits, yeah, they just don't really have this like damage potential later down the line. Then there's also the good old Twisting Blades build that probably most Rogue players have tried at some point. It's still super good. It has received those nerfs really shortly after launch, but I think it's still one of the overall best builds. We have seen the Lilith kills with that. We have seen tier 100 pushing with that. It is pretty powerful. I wouldn't be surprised about a bit of a nerf to it. On the other hand, since we have so many good builds on Rogue, it doesn't really seem like it massively outshines everything else at this point. So it may be just fine. My recommendation going into this new season patch that we're about to get, I expect that Rogue is actually going to be the class with the least amount of changes. I don't really think that much is going to happen, and most of the balancing definitely has to be done on other classes. We have like some really OP and busted builds on, for example, Druid, the Grizzly Rage, and we have a lot of broken and bugged builds with Bulwark, and you know, even stuff like Bone Spear is a bit bugged and Hoda is bugged, and these kind of things. So I expect that most of the changes will actually go in that direction. And then we'll see what Season 1 brings when we have the Malignant Hearts to play around with. So right now we have not really that much information about them, and that might obviously like shift the balance between the builds a little bit. Maybe one build really profits of them and another one doesn't, and yeah, we'll see what comes out of that. Or maybe there's like some really cool new stuff that we can do. My plans for Season 1 is also to try a Rain of Arrows build. I want to do like a full playthrough with Word of Hakan, Rain of Arrows, all the good stuff, and see how that goes. I think it can be really fun and an alternative playstyle as well. And let's see what it can cook up there with the recent buffs to Rain of Arrows. Maybe there's going to be even more stuff to that. I also want to do a proper penetrating shot playthrough, because this is actually the build I've played the least now in launch. I just didn't get around to making it another Rogue or just experimenting much with it on high levels at least. I'm going to keep you guys updated with post patch notes analysis, of course, so there's going to be a lot of stuff. And well, since I have played like 500 hours of Rogue now or something like that since launch only, there's probably a lot of things to talk about depending on what the patch notes bring, depending on what the Malignant Hearts do. And let's see where all the Rogue builds will end up in Season 1. I'm also in the process of updating a lot of guides on max rolls, so I've already done some tweaks to Twisting Blades and Death Trap. We're gonna finish that very soon. I've written the entire Rapid Fire guide lately, so that is going live very soon, so you can stay tuned for that. So then we have like a lot of different builds to choose from in the end. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know how you felt as a Rogue class in general since launch, what you're hoping for, what you expect to happen, and let's see how Season 1 will be. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time.